Welcome everyone to tvosj.org, the voice of San Joaquin. Now it is time for Stockton Alive with Nate Knott.
Thank you, Miss Betty. Betty is, of course, one of my all-time favorite people. She dates back to all the great days of when Edison High School and Franklin High School were great rivals in the 60s and 70s. Well, she's not the 60s, by the way.
No.
Much more recent than that. Lovely photos
I'm
of
not
her
gonna
high
say.
school days.
But thank you.
And she has her wonderful daughters are also very active in the community in Northern California. And, of course, she has the wonderful show that preceded this one, which gives me a vast listening audience of people coming in. So the good news is we finally have one of those great watershed moments in downtown Stockton that Dustin and I have been talking about. Now, you're a longtime Stocktonian, so I'm sure you're familiar with what's known as the Medico-Dental building. The big, tall skyscraper in downtown that's 13 stories tall.
Yes.
And do you remember the big, huge sign that used to say Cloud 99, Betty?
Cloud 99.
Yep, that was on top of the Medico-Dental building. But anyway, it's been a case of long, slow decline and a mostly empty building for about 30 years. And what few tenants it had were kind of there as last resort in terms of like offices and stuff. And I think only 2 or 3 floors were used out of 13. Well, the top 3 are communications equipment. And they're kind of muscled in there and glued in there, and they're going to be there for a while. But anyway, the building has been truly empty for about 15 years. But it's a very classic, beautiful building, Romanesque Renaissance architecture. It's brick. It has a slight resemblance on a much smaller scale to the Empire State Building in New York City. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this building has a grand opening on this Friday, October 11th. Now, for those of you watching tonight, we're actually live at this moment. First time we've been on live in a while. This is Monday, October 7th, 2019. I always try to remember to say the date that we're broadcasting live for those that may catch us as a replay. So we're on live on Monday night, October 7th, right now, about 6:06 p.m. or something like that. This Friday, October 11th, at about 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the grand opening of the Medico-Dental building, reborn as the Medici-Lofts. And it's going to be a tri-useful building. The 2 ground floors, which are on Sutter Street, will be retail businesses, brand new retail businesses. They're furiously working on that part of the building right now to get it ready for the end of the week. And then the floors 3 through 9 will be residential. And much of that is market rate. Some is subsidized. And they're also targeting starving artists and sculptors and people to actually have a couple of those floors. So it's actually artist lofts is the intent. And then the top 3 floors will remain the communications equipment. But this is going to be the first time for almost forever that there's been market rate housing opening up in downtown Stockton. Now, we have 3 more buildings that are getting close to coming online, but they've been delayed waiting for their final construction city permits. The Hunter Square Lofts, which are in the building that has been known as the Mansion House, which is downtown on the corner of on the corner of Weber and Hunter, above what I'm sure is one of Betty's favorite restaurants, the Downtown Casa Flores. That one is actually already nearly fully occupied, and it's turning over to new tenants on an incremental regular basis. It's already been completely remodeled. And that's one of the oldest buildings in Stockton, dating to 1873.
So who's behind the remodeling?
Oh, great question. Okay, that's an excellent question. There's one construction company, development company, which I do not remember the name of, and I can't think of the name of the developer at this moment, but he's working in partnership with 10 Space, which is the young, energetic people that was created by Zach Cord, who's one of the sons of Dan Cord, who's a downtown developer.
Yes.
And 10 Space has right now has exclusive negotiating rights on 15 blocks of downtown Stockton. They brought us back the daycare center that's on Sutter Street and Weber in the old Newberry building. They brought us they rebuilt the Belding building, which is a beautiful building on the corner of San Joaquin and Main. And that building is completely renovated, and they kept all the original architecture with all the beautiful wood frame doors, the chicken wire tile floors, the transom windows above at the top of the hallways. And the top floor of that is where 10 Space headquarters are. Below that is the Huddle Co-work, which Dustin and I have talked about many times, which started across the street, down the street. But anyway, they completely rebuilt and renovated that entire building. That's where Cast Iron Trading Company is downtown and Channel Brewing Company is downtown. Sadly, we have to say Channel Brewing Company has temporarily closed its doors. That's something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But they are planning to reopen at the location of their brewery, which is about 3 blocks from where the Channel Brewing Company has been at the corner of San Joaquin and Weber. And so anyway, so they're developing the medico-dental building. And they also, that same tandem, the developer whose name unfortunately escapes me right now, and the 10 Space people also brought us the Cal Weber 40, which opened up a year and a half ago. And then the other buildings I talked about, the 100 Square Lofts, the Trethaway Lofts, which are in the old Argonaut Hotel, which is next to the 100 Square. It actually looks like, to some extent from the outside, the buildings look like they're one huge continuous building, but they do have independent, separate walls in between them. And then there's going to be the Cal Main building, which is over on Main Street and California Street. More recently, it was once a department store. In fact, it was Rosenthal's department store in downtown Stockton, one of the last department stores, that true, old-fashioned, classic department store to have kept its doors open. That and Crest were the last 2 businesses downtown, along with Newberry's, last 3 businesses downtown. A few years before that, there was also Jose's Western Wear and Mode O'Day, but they went out several years before. But anyway, the company that's doing the development people and company that are doing those 3 buildings, the Hunter Square Lofts, the Trethaway building, which is the old Argonaut Hotel, and those are adjacent buildings above Casa Flores and a mini mart, and they're on Weber Avenue. They're across the street from and face towards the new and old county administration building and courthouse. And then the other building, the Cal Main building, I started to say was renovated a few years back when the county of San Joaquin was expanding its office reach in downtown Stockton and also moving offices around in anticipation of opening up what is now the new county administration building in downtown Stockton, the one that has the huge green glass atrium lobby and lounge, which I like to refer to as the Great Green Iceberg. It's actually a pretty nice building, though, and I even like the green glass facade. Inside that, by the way, is a authentic, original glass Chihuly chandelier. Chihuly was an incredible glassware artist who was based up in Seattle, Washington. I could do a whole show on him. I'm not going to do that tonight. But he has one of his classic, incredible glass tube chandeliers, a huge chandelier, hanging in the green glass atrium lobby of the San Joaquin County Administration Building, located at Weber and San Joaquin. Anyway, the company that's behind those buildings is called Bear Paw Recreation something. Now, this is a company that's well known to many, many people. It's an international company, great resources. They make recreational equipment such as hiking boots and things like that. I think they do backpacks. I'm not personally familiar with their products, but they're very well known. They do a lot of online business. Anyway, this is going to be a trend that's going to help Stockton. It's already helping Stockton, and we should, as a community, jump all over this. The Bear Paw people basically wanted to expand their operations in the Bay Area, but it was just too expensive. So they started looking for places to relocate to and have a central location and a business presence and a footprint. And after a lot of research and a lot of touring around, they chose Stockton, California. They decided Stockton had 3 things going for it. One is beautifully located geographically, which we've talked about numerous times. We're at the confluence of 2 freeways, 2 transcontinental railroads, and an inland ocean port, of which, as I've said so many times, you can count on my 2 hands how many viable inland ocean ports there are in the entire world, and we've got one of them. And ours is very successfully operated under the tutelage of Rick Asheris as the port executive director. Our port is primarily privately owned and operated, by the way. It does get some money from I believe, a tax assessment, but it's very minor. But the port essentially makes its way on its own revenues from imports and exports and the ships coming and going, which it averages about 2 ships a week by. We're talking ocean ships now. about 2 ocean ships a week from all over the world enter and leave the port of Stockton, right there at the foot of Weber Avenue. So anyway, that's just incredible news that the Medico-Dental building is going to open on October 11th, this Friday. Again, if you're watching the show live or if you're watching a replay, this was being taped. Right now we're live on Monday, October 7th. In fact, I'm up against the 49ers tonight, who scored a touchdown in their first play of the game before I came on the air. So I don't know how many live listeners we have tonight, since we're up against the 49ers, who are playing the Cleveland Browns. But anyway, so that building, I have some great memories of that building. First of all, it was built in 1927, constructed in 27, and 13 stories tall. And until that huge hotel was built in downtown Modesto and our recent county courthouse here in downtown Stockton on Weber Avenue, the Medico-Dental building, until approximately 1996 or whenever the Red Lion Inn opened in Modesto, which I believe is called a Days Inn, or a Doubletree. I believe it's a Doubletree. That is taller. But prior to that, our Medico-Dental building was the tallest building in the Central Valley between Sacramento and Fresno. And in Fresno at that time, the building that surpassed it was the historic classic PG&E building, which the last I knew was empty in Fresno. Fresno's gone through some serious challenges with its downtown. But anyway, so we have this grand opening. Now, there's more to the story than it's not just a grand opening on October 11th. That is the public showing off of the building. The apartments, as I understand, are completely done. The only thing they're working on is the 2 ground floors for retail space. But the even better news is the people, the residents, who are going to permanently live downtown and add to the downtown footprint and the downtown business and be pedestrians on the sidewalks. They're moving in on November 1st. And this is already a done deal. We know it's going to happen. The leases and the things are already there. So this is not something we're hoping for, wishing for. This is absolutely 100% a done deal. Now, the other 3 buildings are coming. Sadly, they've been unnecessary. Well, I shouldn't say unnecessary. Let me rephrase that. Unfortunately, they've been delayed by just waiting for their city construction permits. The buildings are essentially done, but they need final permits to clear through City Hall Public Works Department so that they can finish the interiors, so they can then lease the places, put in the furniture and the appliances and all that, and finish up the plumbing. Not the plumbing, but the actual fixtures, like the bathrooms and things, are just simply waiting for city permits. The leasing and the renting is already essentially done. Apparently there's plenty of people to move in. And those are market rate, by the way. The Hunter Square Lofts, the Trethaway Lofts in the Argonaut Hotel, and the Hunter Square Loft is the Mansion Hotel. And then the Cal Main building, which is the former Rosenthal's department store. And more recently, I never did actually finish the point, it was remodeled and restored for the county of San Joaquin as they were building a new county administration building back in about 2008 to 2010. It housed the department of the local San Joaquin County Department of Environmental Protection and other such services dealing with inspections in buildings and land use in San Joaquin County. Anyway, so it was remodeled for a while, and that helped save the building. And then it was vacated, though, and was empty for approximately, well, it had a charter school for a while, but it's been empty for 3 or 4 years, but now it's going to be reborn as the Cal Main building with approximately 34 housing units. The Hunter Square building has, I want to say, 28, and the Trethaway building, I believe, has 24. I know in grand total there's about 80-plus units of housing with those 3 buildings. And then you've got, and then the 7 floors of the Medico-Dental building have about 30-something floors of also of residential units, I should say. I believe I overstated the Hunter Square and Trethaway. I believe they're around 18 and 22, and then the Cal Main building is either 34 or 28, and then the Medico-Dental building is 34. But anyway, this is a game changer for downtown Stockton, because once you have people living downtown, then they'll take ownership of it, and they'll support businesses. They'll go to restaurants, they'll go to bars and pubs, And then little boutiques and things are going to spring up. We're not going to get the big retail stores we once had. Sears and Penny's and all that is probably a thing in the past. It's unlikely a Walmart or Target's going to come downtown, and maybe that's not even a good thing if they did. But there will be enough people walking the sidewalks now to at least ensure that a few boutiques will be open. We'll have salons and barbershops, which we have now, and they'll have a much stronger customer base. And then all the new restaurants and bars and pubs that have opened up, which we've talked about numerous times, but I'll rattle off a couple names anyway just to review it. Just in the last 2.5 years, we've gained Papa Herb's fusion Filipino food. We've gained the Cast Iron Trading Company. We gained the Channel Brewing Company, which has just recently temporarily closed its doors, unfortunately, but it's going to reopen. We gained the Deliberation Room, which we've talked about numerous times on North California Street, a half a block south of Weber. And that's the first legitimate full-service, full-size food and drink bar in downtown Stockton since the Shamrock closed mysteriously closed around 1997 for reasons no one to this day understands, which was located near where the Stockton Record is now. The building itself does not exist anymore. It got buried underneath the new Stockton Record printing plant, built in completed in 2003. And now, sadly, of course, this year, the Stockton Record quit printing the paper in Stockton. It's now printed, I believe, up in Sacramento. I don't know if the Sacramento Bee does it, but somebody in Sacramento prints it and ships it down. The paper's typeset in Dallas, Texas, I believe, or Fort Worth. So the paper, while it still has the local news and is still published for Stocktonians and Central Californians, is not locally produced here anymore, except for the writing of it, which is then transmitted by computer to Texas and to Sacramento for typesetting and printing. Anyway, so getting back again to the idea of the downtown. There's also the Downtowner Cafe, and there's still the old-timers that are out there, Xochimilco Mexican Restaurant, and El Zarape, and several other, and Casa Flores, and Tio Pepe's, and I know I'm leaving out Maria's, and a couple others I'm leaving out probably, but I was trying to mention, of course, the new ones. All the other ones I mentioned are relatively new. And they've all struggled a bit, but they're there and they've done well. Now, I keep mentioning that the Channel Brewing Company has temporarily closed its doors. And I stress the word temporarily. They're probably not going to be able to sustain or remain at the location they had on the corner of San Joaquin and Weber, which is where they've served all the beer. But apparently they're going to open up a public cafe or brew pub at the location of their actual brewing plant, which is on American Street near Channel Street, in a place called Madrid. The actual exterior of the building is called Madrid Auto Repair. The building indeed was an auto repair shop, and it got a facade upgrade, and then unfortunately it couldn't sustain its business, but it became the location for the actual brewing of the local brewing of the beer that is served by the Channel Brewing Company. Now, we also do have one other local brewery in Stockton, which is still doing well, right here on the Miracle Mile. Again, the Voice of San Joaquin, TVOSJ, is located on Bedford Place, right off the Miracle Mile near Werlo's. And the place I'm talking is Valley Brew, which is just 4 blocks down the street, where you also have the Take 5 beautiful music auditorium, a banquet room, really, I should say, music banquet room, ballroom, at the Valley Brewing Company, used by the Pacific Conservatory and University of Pacific Music Department, and Take 5 does a lot of jazz shows with the UOP jazz musicians and other people that are booked there. Of course, across the street from us here at the Voice of San Joaquin on the Miracle Mile is Werlo's, which hosts live music, which is a combination of, it can be jazz, swing, soul, rhythm and blues, pretty much almost every night of the week. And then also down the street from us is the Mile Wine Company, which also has live music many nights of the week. And I'm probably leaving out a couple others that do that. There's also karaoke at various places on the Miracle Mile and other places downtown and in North Stockton. Which actually leads me to my big announcement that I'll have a guest on the next show. We haven't had a guest in a long time because we've had so many difficulties actually scheduling the show. But we're going to have a guest on the next show, which is 2 weeks from tonight, which will be Monday night, October 21st at 6 o'clock when we're on live. We'll have Ralph Banuellos, legendary, iconic Stockton musician, will be our guest on the show. He confirmed that again tonight. He actually is at home watching the 49ers right now play the Cleveland Browns, by the way. Ralph Banuellos has been performing since 1968. That's remarkable. This is his 51st year of performing. Still a very youthful person. He was a teenager when he started. And he performed for about 40 years at the Shadows on the north end of Pacific Avenue, near the Pacific Triangle, where you have the confluence of Thornton Road, Lower Sac, and Hammer Lane. And just off of that was a place called the Shadows, which is also known as the Shadows Steakhouse. And that has not really been open for several years now, but that was a hot spot of music and dancing, live music and dancing for years and years and years, literally 5 decades. That was a hot spot. And Ralph Banuellos and various partners of his, usually saxophone players. Ralph is an electric guitarist, and he had, of course, these days they have the fancy computer music that they can sing and play along with. But he's one of the several great local musicians we have. Here near the Miracle Mile, we have Mark St. Pierre and the Part-Time Band, which performs a lot at the Ave up the street from us. And Ralph Banuellos also performs at the Ave up the street from us. The Ave is just 2 blocks north of where the Voice of San Joaquin is. And I'm speaking of the Ave, which is a bar, lounge restaurant here in the Miracle Mile, which was the first of the new wave ones that, and actually, I believe it's 9 years old now that they've been there, 9th anniversary. Maybe it's 7, but anyway, I can't remember which. But they actually started the trend that led to the Miracle Mile having several new businesses and pubs and restaurants, which led to the Miracle Mile now becoming a successful destination for nighttime food, wine, drinking, and entertainment, live music, and dancing. And downtown Stockton is getting there. And having these new buildings open is going to be a big part of that. And I was going to tell you, I was mentioning why the Bear Paw Company is interested in coming to Stockton. Well, I'll give you a couple reasons why. We blend modern trends and development and growing size with great history and architecture and a place of sense, or sense of place. And just to give you an idea, I always talk about the tools of ignorance that I use. In case I need to kill time, which don't have to do tonight, but in case I did, I have the World Almanac full of facts, figures, statistics, and things, and I'm going to use it tonight. Actually, this is the 2018, but it'll be good enough for what I'm doing tonight. I have the 2019 at home. And, of course, I have my whiteout with me. I have to write voluminous notes, but I'm also a neatness person, and when I make a mistake writing, I can't stand to leave the mistake there to cross it out, so I white it out. I still use the old liquid whiteout. But anyway, to mention some of the attractions of Stockton. Okay, we're the 61st largest city in the United States by population. A lot of people don't know that. We recently leapfrogged over St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. That's by actual city limit population, not by urban center population or statistical metropolitan area, but by actual city limit population. But Stockton's about 310,000 people now. We're 61.7 square miles. We have a very, very, very diverse population. Our population is approximately 42% white people, 11.6 African American, 21.4% Asian, but we also have 36 or 7% Hispanics, both, and the way they listed as both white and non-white Hispanic. But Stockton, actually the white Caucasian population of Stockton is now what would be called a plurality, but not a majority. And it's actually, if you take all the other populations combined, then it's actually a minority of about 42% to 58%. And San Joaquin County, the Caucasian white population is just a little over 50% now. It's also about to flip over into the plurality minority status. Our median income here is somewhat low, but people see that as an opportunity, and they see it as a place where you could create a lot of jobs that people would be eager to have. Our median population is only about 46,000 per household. But the greater point here, though, is that is actually seen in this particular case as an opportunity. And that's because of the lower median household income, property and property values of buildings are still very affordable. The Bear Paw Company basically was being priced out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And again, after checking all the valley towns, they chose Stockton. They also looked at Walnut Creek and other places in the Bay Area, but those places were too expensive. So now I mentioned we combine a lot of factors, not just the growing population. And I mentioned we're the 61st largest city. Just to go back real briefly, we're behind Lexington, Fayette, Kentucky, but we're just behind Riverside. Bakersfield did blow by us some time ago, by the way. Now they're the 53rd largest city in the U.S. But we're just ahead, as I mentioned, of St. Louis, Pittsburgh, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Cincinnati, and Greensboro, North Carolina, to name some. We're also larger by population than Orlando, Florida. I think people are surprised by that. St. Petersburg, Florida. Now, we also have some surprising company in our general population range. A city that's about to surpass us, of all crazy things, is Henderson, Nevada, which is just outside of Las Vegas. And Las Vegas itself has grown ridiculously. I used to live there. When I lived there, it was about 660,000 people, which is pretty large. But Las Vegas now has gotten up to, it's over 700. I mean, it's about 700 something thousand. I'm sorry. When I lived there, I quoted the modern population. When I lived there, it was about 200 and something thousand. Now it's about 665,000. And Las Vegas, by the way, is now the I lost my here it is. It's the 27th largest city, having just passed Oklahoma City, and it's right on the heels of Portland and Memphis, Tennessee. So, and a lot of the Midwest cities that are so well known, like Toledo, Ohio, and Columbus, Ohio, and Cleveland, and these places, they're all now falling behind this growth of population in California and the Southwest. I think a lot of people will be shocked to know that San Antonio, Texas, is actually the 7th largest city in the U.S. by population. Now, the top three are New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Chicago, for decades and decades, was the 2nd largest city, and they used to call themselves the second city to New York. But L.A. blew by them in about the year roughly about 1982. L.A. blew by them at about 3 million, and now L.A. is at about is a little over 4 million, and Chicago's dropped down to 2.8 million. Although now Chicago's growing again, by the way, it's bottomed out. Philadelphia, which used to be the 3rd largest city at about 2.5 million, is at 1.56 million now. The city that's had the implosion, altogether unbelievable free fall of population is Detroit, Michigan, which in 1950 was 2.1 million people, and as late as 1980 was still 1.2 million. Well, now it's dropped down to 660-something thousand. That's just remarkable that Detroit has lost 2/3 of its actual city boundary population. Okay. So Stockton's a relatively large city, and we're a growing city. Still growing, 4, 5, 6% population. Not overwhelming, but not slow or status quo either. A city that's kind of status quo would have a growth of population of 1 to 3%. We're double that, and we used to be more than that. We did slow down with the economic meltdown, all the home foreclosures, but now our real estate market is heated up again. So anyway, That's the growth of the households, the populations, the rooftops, and all those things, why people would come here. But people are coming here to put high tech into Stockton because this is the most affordable place to develop high tech that can no longer afford San Francisco, South of Market, or the Silicon Valley. We, in addition to the Medico-Delta building having this great opening on October 11th, a building across the street from the San Joaquin Transit Center where I work, at the corner of Weber and California and Sutter. Across the street from that is the Kendall Building. An incredibly beautiful, ornate, spectacular facade, brick and terracotta facade with all kinds of ornamental artwork and arched windows and everything. It was a stationery store, been empty for 30 years. The County of San Joaquin Office of Education has purchased that building, and they're going to turn it into a Stockton Code School. A code school, this is a new thing now, a new term, is a school where they teach students how to write computer code or computer programming. They'll actually design computer programming. But for the Kendall building, it's not just that it's going to house classes and teach this. It's going to be the home base for code building for the San Joaquin County Office of Education, which, it turns out, is one of the leading code building organizations in the entire state of California. The San Joaquin County Office of Education designs and sells computer coding for educational curriculum and other various things to over 70 school districts in the state of California. And that business and that education and that curriculum is going to be centered in the ornate, beautiful, historic Kendall building right there in the heart of downtown Stockton, right on Weber Avenue, between San Joaquin and Weber Avenue. For anyone who actually is familiar with downtown, it'll be a couple doors down from the Subway sandwiches shop, and the old Barber College, which is located right there on the corner of San Joaquin and Weber in the historic Elks building, which itself is coming back to life with lawyers and insurance companies and chamber of commerce and things like that. But anyway, when this code business, the Kendall building is simply waiting for permits to clear for the county office to completely go in and completely renovate that entire building, which is 7 stories tall, by the way. And the whole thing used to be a stationery store, and all the different levels used to combine showroom, stationery supplies, and also act as a warehouse for having the stuff on hand, having a large inventory on hand for immediate sales, including office furniture and things like that. But anyway, this building is going to be in use 24/7. There has been nothing in downtown Stockton that I know of that has been open and in use and active 24/7 for a long time. Although there's one slight exception to that, the Verve, VERVE, software programming computer company, located in downtown Stockton, in the historic, iconic California skyscraper, and located in the lobby that was once a commercial bank lobby, and more recently the Pacific State Bank lobby, which is an ornate lobby with balconies and marble pillars and marble floors and all kinds of and beautiful cut glass chandeliers. Used to be the Levinson's Bridal Store in downtown Stockton. For any slightly older people watching the show or viewing the show or listening to it, streaming it online, may remember they themselves or maybe their parents or maybe their grandparents bought a bridal dress at this beautiful ornate store at the corner. It's at the corner of Main and San Joaquin Street, adjacent to the historic Fox Bob Hope Theater. The Levinson's Bridal Store is where Verve is. And Verve, and I can't go all the details on this, but Verve is actually going to move from there and restore another vacant building in downtown Stockton. That's another one of these chain reaction things. And then this space will, and I don't know who's leasing it out, but this space will be turned over to another group of people that presumably actually will probably have more retail and foot traffic than the Verve people do. Now, Verve, I mentioned them because they are 24/7, but it's not a huge number of people. It doesn't create a lot of pedestrians on the street. Now, for anyone who has not been to downtown Stockton in some time, a lot of beautiful little businesses have popped up on San Joaquin Street between Main Street and Market Street. And we're talking, for those that know there's downtown or even just know restaurants in general, the historic, iconic Xochimilco restaurant, Mexican restaurant, is in that block. And for a while, it was about the only thing open on the block. But now there's a really spectacular retro old-fashioned men's barber shop, which is decorated now to look like the 1920s. They have all the authentic barber chairs in there that date to around the turn of the century, 1900 something, have been all beautifully restored. The brass and silverwork has been polished, and they call it a Pomodoro store now. I forgot exactly the name, but it's located on San Joaquin Street there. right next to the California building. And then there's a really off-the-wall kind of goofball music shop. When I say music shop, though, it's not a place that sells records and vinyls and CDs and all that. It's a store that takes in and rebuilds and repairs instruments and also makes and sells limited types of one-off instrumental pieces. So that's all happening now. Again, getting back to why Bear Paw would come back to downtown, I'm just giving you all the reasons. All of these businesses I'm talking about are in these beautiful, historic, authentic, wonderful facade, classic architecture buildings. As I mentioned, the Medico-Dental building being Romanesque Renaissance, I believe is the term they've used. The Kendall building has these beautiful arched windows, 7 floors of arched windows with beautiful filigree and terracotta design and brick. And then all these old hotels that are going to get repopulated that will get repopulated, both businesses and maybe eventually housing, have classic facades and lobbies that can be restored and things like that. California Street, actually, the block south of Weber, is actually very heavily occupied. It was deader than a doormat 3 years ago. Now you have the deliberation room. You have a family law practice in what used to be the Morris Home Financial Center building, beautifully restored, awnings, facades, everything. And the owner of the deliberation room and the owner of the business actually lives there now. It's a now live workspace. On Weber Avenue, in the Argonaut, the mansion, I should say, in the ground floor of the Mansion Hotel, which is where the 100 Square Lofts are located next to Casa Flores. Beautiful little wonderful kind of off-the-wall gift store with a lot of homemade items made locally in Stockton and San Joaquin County called the Freckled Moon. And they're open 5-6 days a week. And they live in their space. They actually live in the back of the store. So live workspace is now something that's always happened in Europe and used to happen in the U.S. is now becoming a big trend, and this is something that is being transforming downtown Stockton. I do have, before we get too close to the end of airtime here today, by the way, I do want to mention that we have a major event coming up that is of great help to many people. And that is going to be the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce having its 17th annual Student Financial Aid and College Awareness Workshop. And that will be on Sunday, October 20th. That'll be just a week from the upcoming Sunday, or 2 weeks from yesterday, another way to think of this. So Sunday, October 20th, on 2019, at the University of Pacific's A.G. Spanos Center, that's the basketball arena and volleyball arena at the University of Pacific, we'll have the 17th Annual Student Financial Aid and College Awareness Workshop. And that you can contact the Hispanic Chamber for more information, or the University of Pacific. I don't have the graphics to put it up for you. I can tell you what the phone number is, and I'll repeat it. So if you want to know about the 70th Annual Student Financial Aid and College Awareness Workshop to be held at the University of Pacific on October 20th at the A.G. Spanos Center, this is the number you would call. You would call area code 209, of course, our local area code, and then 946-7705. That's 946-7705. And San Joaquin Delta College also has a lot of things going on, and they have their new president. We salute ourselves to Dr. Kathy Hart, the former president. I will, if I can get her, I'll try to have her on the air one as a guest. I know her quite well, and she did a wonderful job of stabilizing Delta College after they had kind of a revolving door of presidents for a short time about 10 years ago, and things were very unstable. They have the Dreamers Success Center, which is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and that's located in the Holt Building, room 121. That's the Dreamers Success Center, and that is a place that is intended to help students who are struggling, who may not have a lot of money, may have challenges with where they live, transportation and various other things, getting even just being able to pick up just very necessary groceries things and gifts things. And the necessities of life are located at the Dreamers Success Center at Delta College in Holt 121, open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And there's a phone number for that also. So if you want the phone number for the Dreamers Center in Holt 121 at Delta College, this is that phone number. Again, area code 209. And then the regular number after that, 954-5731. So the phone number to go to the Dreamers Center at Delta College on a weekday in Holt Building Room 121. The phone number is 954-5731. Having made those announcements, let me finish up with what we were, the other topics we had. I mentioned Ralph Banuellos, the iconic legendary musician, will be coming 2 weeks from tonight on Monday night, October 21st. Let me briefly explain what kind of music he plays. He's primarily classic rock and disco. He also does big band music. He is a vocalist and an electric guitar player, and he can really jam on the guitar, which he loves to do. He has a great range and variety of music, and if he has an accompanist with a saxophone or a female vocalist, then they really can get into the disco music also. He does also rock in the 80s, 90s, and even current stuff. And when he takes his short breaks, he'll put on the recorded music and put on great music for people to dance to, such as Up, Down, Funk You Up by that wonderful song, and the song Happy by Farrell, and then also he'll put on Hispanic music such as Suavemente. I mean, he'll mix it up pretty good with the music when he's with the recorded music, and he'll play a lot of requests. He can play almost anything on request if it's from the 60s, 50s, 60s, or 70s, or 80s. He also does Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, all the great big band music, Engelbert Humperdinck, and I'm aging myself for anybody that's under the age of about 50 right now. I'm in the next decade, by the way, in terms of age, and I look nowhere near as cute or as gorgeous as Betty Lupe sitting out in the lobby in our wonderful show that preceded us. But anyway. He usually has one or two partners, but even if he has to play by himself, he's got the recorded music with the computer combination, great sound system, and he both sings and plays the music, and he's just terrific. And he generally plays now at various different places, but most often he plays at the Ave here on the Miracle Mile. Sometimes he plays up in North Pacific Avenue in the I went blank on the one of the restaurants he plays in. He'll wind up at Garlic Brothers sometimes, but he hits all the places generally in Stockton to do live music. He also plays in Woodbridge and in Lodi, and occasionally even up north in Galt. He'll play there too. He's in heavy demand, does a lot of private parties, and when we have him as a guest, we'll give you all his contact information, everything, how to get a hold of him. And his prices are very, very reasonable to hire him for an evening. So he'll do things like wedding receptions, birthday parties, and retirement and things like that. He also plays here at Werlo's once in a while, across the street. DeVega Brothers is the restaurant I wanted to mention up on North Pacific Avenue, and that's in the shopping center there that has the BJ's Brewery and all that, up there by Pacific and March Lane. We also have another guest that will be coming on. I don't have an exact date, but I know he'll be coming on soon. His name is Michael Fields, and he's the executive director of the Peer Recovery Services, PRS. This is a local, independently operated in partnership with San Joaquin County Mental Health Services and Behavioral Services. Is a wellness center dedicated to helping people primarily who have any kind of self-admitted disablement, mental challenge, addiction, things like that. I'm on their board of directors. I literally just came from their meeting right before to do this show. The center's located at 1109 North California Street, literally across the street from the University Park and relatively close to where the CSU's Stanislaus Stockton Educational Center is located, and the beautiful old mansion building that used to be the executive director's house of the former state mental hospital that used to be located with huge numbers of big hospital buildings and things at what is now known as University Park. So we do have guests. We haven't had guests for a long time. We've had a lot of challenges scheduling and doing the show live and taping it and so forth. I believe we're going to be a little more consistent from here on out. I've promised that before and haven't been able to deliver, but we're going to make every effort to be on the air live every other week. And we are committed to Monday night, October 21st, Monday, October 21st, to have Ralph Banuellos, a musician, come in. And when he's here, we'll talk about other musicians also. And we'll make sure that we give you a good overall picture of the live music scene in Stockton. You know, live music and comedy, there's more of it here in Stockton than people realize. Everyone thinks they have to go to Sacramento or the Bay Area to get that, but there actually is a pretty active field here in Stockton. The Deliberation Room in downtown Stockton generally has a live comedy show every other Friday night beginning at 8 p.m. And the Deliberation Room is located at 5 North California Street, which is 1/2 block south of Weber Avenue. North and south in downtown Stockton begins and ends on Main Street. That's the demarcation line. And a lot of people who aren't familiar with downtown Stockton would think that north and south would begin at Weber Avenue, but it begins at Main Street. So 5 North California is a 1/2 block south of Weber Avenue. So we have the guests, like I say, we have the guests coming up, Ralph Banuellos and Michael Fields of the Peer Recovery Services San Joaquin County Wellness Center, an independent nonprofit organization which is just committed to buying the building they're in, which means they are now, and they've also just won some new funding and some renewed funding. I know from the county of San Joaquin, I believe maybe from United Way. And so they're becoming a very stable, good organization that can grow and expand and provide much, much, much needed mental health services to people here in Stockton and San Joaquin County. These cities such as Stockton, San Jose, San Fernando in Southern California, and various other places were hurt severely in terms of their downtowns when the huge state mental hospitals that house thousands of patients and clients were shut down in 1970. Well, the funding was cut in 72, 73, and it eventually led to their shutdown in 1975, 76, and 77, and put tens of thousands of people who were not mentally stable onto downtown city streets, who were then trying to live in residential hotels and halfway houses. And the state, when they shut down the mental hospital, just did not provide enough funding or enough support services to make up for that. Which brings up an interesting, I don't talk politics on this show. We try to keep this show just about Stockton and keep it nonpartisan. I will mention one thing about mental health as it relates to gun issues. You always hear people say, it's not the fault of the gun that kills people, it's the people that kill people using the guns. And then they always say that it's always the bad guys getting guns that do it, nothing can really stop that. And then on top of that, they go on further to say that the real problem is we have too many kooky people with mental health problems that get these guns, and they're the ones that shoot up everybody. If that's what you believe, and that's actually a lot of, there's a lot of truth in all that, and it's largely true that a lot of these mass shootings are done by mentally unstable people who somehow get their hands on automatic weapons and rifles and things, and then they blow people away. If you feel like that is the major problem, then we ought to fund health care in the United States. It's very hypocritical to talk about that and then be against the taxes that would fund those programs. That's as political as I'm going to get on this show. But again, I'm now on the board of directors of a health center, and a mental health center, and I've known these, and my wife works with the Channel Medical Center. She actually manages the Community Medical Centers Corporation Channel Medical Center in downtown Stockton. By far the best medical care you can get in Stockton, San Joaquin County if you don't have an income. They charge people based on income, and you can, if you have no real income or you have very low income, you can get first-class medical care essentially for free. You have to qualify for it, but you can get it. But anyway, they also have to deal with a lot of people coming through their downtown location. And physical health and mental health are often related. This is why I mentioned this. And my wife has come across this numerous times. But every time the Channel Medical Center wants to refer people for mental health care, the people will tell them they can't get in. there's not enough doctors, not enough appointments, or they have to wait a month for an appointment, or they can't afford the prescriptions that are given to them. They can't afford to go to the pharmacy to get the prescriptions that are prescribed by the mental health doctors. So if we're going to use mental health as an excuse to not limit guns, then let's fund mental health properly. I'll just say that right now. With that having been said, we're pretty much coming to the end of the show. I do want to end on a more positive note. This is just a pretty upscale show most of the time. Most of the time we're pretty happy and positive. I want to mention we're getting to a great time of year. We've got the baseball playoffs. We've got football now in full swing. The 49ers are playing as we speak on Monday Night Football. But in between University of Pacific and Delta College, the college sports scene is really heating up. We now have we're getting through the college football season at Delta. But between Delta and UOP, we have women's volleyball. We have men's soccer. We have men's water polo. And we have men's and women's basketball coming. Pacific is actually chosen to be, women's team is actually chosen or picked to be third place in the West Coast Conference. That's pretty amazing. Even more amazing is that the University of Pacific men's water polo team is once again nationally ranked. They're ranked third in the nation. They're on a big winning streak, and they're blowing away all the college powers as we speak. And they have a real shot at a national championship. 4 years ago, they came within 30 seconds of a national championship before University of Southern California, USC Trojans, tied them in the last minute of regulation and beat them in overtime. And then we also have women's, let's see. I think I covered it all. Women's volleyball. Yeah, volleyball. And remember, Pacific's off to a great start in women's volleyball. It used to be a national power. Actually had back-to-back national championships in 1985 and 1986. The 86 championship was actually won here in Stockton at the A.G. Spanel Center on national television on CBS. Something I watched at that time as a much younger person. So with that, I want to thank Betty Lopez Ramirez for helping us get on the air and helping us get started with the show and providing me with some great information to talk about on the show. And Betty will, of course, help me close out the show. And we've got Richard coming up, I believe, with his show. And he gets into more of the social issues than what I do, of course. So he'll be coming on. Richard Slezak, I believe, follows me tonight, or at least he comes on the air tonight, I believe. And with that, we've had another edition of Stockton Alive. Remember, the Alive is all capital letters with an exclamation mark after it. So this is Nate Knote signing off for Stockton Alive on Monday night, October 7th. We were live. Hopefully you might get, if you didn't see it live, hopefully you'll see it in replay. Our next show is scheduled for Monday night, October 21st, with our guest, the local wonderful nightclub lounge musician, singer, local Stockton icon, Ralph Banuellos. Formerly the official musician of the Shadows. Thank you so much. Have a great evening and a great week.
Thank you.